Hello everybody and welcome back to Southern Fried Crime, the true crime channel with the country twist. If you're new here, please remember to like, subscribe, and click on the little bell icon to be notified when new videos post. Thank you. In today's case, we're going to be talking about the murder of Joyce Klindt, a woman who found the courage to leave her husband only to be murdered by him and be dismembered by a chainsaw. So sit back and buckle up while I tell you the story of Joyce and her murder at the hands of her husband James. Joyce Klindt was a beautiful blonde woman who lived in Davenport, Iowa. She had one son named Bartlett, and she was married to a chiropractor named James. James and Joyce were going through marital problems. James had the habit of getting violent with Joyce. It got so bad, Joyce started to secretly record James when they were fighting. In one of these recordings, James could be heard telling Joyce that he hated her and that he was going to cut her up into little pieces and throw her in the river. Joyce was reported missing on March 17, 1983 by concerned friends. On March 16, 1983, fishermen found a female torso in the river. The torso had been severed just above the navel and just below the hips. The pathologist said it was a mechanical saw, most likely a chainsaw that was used to cut up the body. But just who did the torso belong to? Police turned to world-renowned forensic anthropologist Dr. Clyde Snow for that answer. He defussed the torso and took measurements of all the bones. When he did this, Dr. Snow was able to come up with an approximation of the woman's height, weight, and race. The description was used to perform a computerized search of all missing women in the area. This information was combined with genetic markers, the precursors to DNA. When compared to missing women in the area, only one name, Joyce Klindt, came up as an exact match. A witness also testified that she saw James Klindt putting plastic bags in his boat and transporting them out to the river. One of the bags was so heavy that he had to use both hands to carry it. James Klindt was arrested and charged with murder on March the 28th, 1984. His first trial took place in Keokuk, Iowa. The trial took 6 weeks and ended with a hung jury. The second trial took place in Sioux City, Iowa, and once again took 6 weeks. This time the jury found James Klindt guilty of second-degree murder. On December 21st, 1984, James Klindt was sentenced to 50 years in prison. Iowa's old sentencing guidelines cut Klindt's sentence in half and allowed him to earn additional time for good behavior. While incarcerated at North Central Correctional Facility in Rockwell City, Iowa, he taught other inmates how to read and also participated in training guide dogs for the blind. The parole board turned him down several times because one condition of parole is that the inmate has to take ownership of the crime, and that is one thing James Klindt always refused to do, at least initially. In 1992, Klindt confessed to the crime from his prison cell. He told a reporter from the Fort Dodge Messenger that he killed Joyce in self-defense, throwing a pool ball at her when she was pointing a gun at him. He then confessed to cutting up her body with a chainsaw and dumping her remains in the Mississippi River. James Klindt was finally granted parole in 2004. One would think that he would behave himself while out on parole, but one would be sorely mistaken. He returned to Davenport, Iowa to live with his elderly parents, and he continued to be arrested several times for a variety of infractions. In August 2004, he pled guilty to a misdemeanor charge of interfering with officers and fined $50. Police had been called to his home in response to a domestic dispute he had with his girlfriend. Let's just stop here for a minute. What woman in her right mind would date a man who murdered his wife and then dismembered her with a chainsaw? In 2004, he was charged with 2 counts of drug possession and a charge of possessing drug paraphernalia. He was sentenced to 1 year probation for the drug possession. In April 2008, he was found guilty of possessing a crack pipe and fined $65 and had his driver's license suspended for 6 months. Don't think James Klindt got off easy and just served a short 20-year sentence for murdering and dismembering Joyce. Oh no, he could not be so lucky. James Klindt lived with and cared for his aging parents in his former childhood home ever since he was released from prison. In October 2010, James Klindt fell at home and hit his head on a piece of furniture, where he died. He was just 62 years old. It was at this moment I felt Joyce Klindt finally got her justice. That's all for today's case. Please remember to like this video if you think it's worth liking, and subscribe to Southern Fried Crime for more true crime content. Bye for now.